Welcome to Freed on Business. He grew up in South Florida, has been in business here since the early 90s, and has closed over $3 billion in deals. He's seen it all. He always has an opinion, and he's always ready to share it. Informed, entertaining, and connected, he has his finger on the pulse of South Florida's business community. He's Jim Freed, and this is Freed on Business.
All right, welcome to Freed on Business. We've got some technical issues that we were able to solve before we got on, so high five to everybody for that. We've got a great show that I've been really working hard to put together. It's all family office today. We're going to talk about family offices, why they might be motivated to domicile offshore. We're going to talk about how they might be able to do that. We're going to talk about the impact that they'll have on the real estate industry, and we're going to really have three tremendous family office thought leaders. We're going to have Tom Handler on. We're going to have, and I know I'm going to get it wrong, but he'll take me to task for it later. Ezzedeen Soleiman. How'd I do, Ezzedeen? Well, I can't hear him yet. Just give me the thumbs up. I hope I got close. And of course, my good friend Wendy Kraft, who helps me stir this. She's the straw that stirs the drink on all this. We'll be right back with a great look at the new trends in family office right after this with our panel of thought leaders. Mr. Mendoza, it's all yours. All right, I'm going to have to preview the videos from now on, Mr. Mendoza. You keep showing the deals that I've either closed or the ones that I'm working on, and I won't say which the last vignette was. But I can tell you this, when you're looking to buy or lease a car, you want to get every advantage that you can. That's why I have to check out my friends at Warren Henry. Thank you so much to Larry and the team for being our sponsors for now a long time. Land Rover, Range Rover, Infiniti, and Jaguar. That's what they've got up at 151st and Biscayne. I just got my brand new QX60 from them. Thank you guys for getting that into my wife's hot little hands. She's so happy. And it's a tremendous car. I drove it all day yesterday. I love it. Better order one for me. And Range Rover, Infiniti, Jaguar. Up in Gainesville, they sell Audis. I may get one of them really hot new Audi e-cars. Down in the Keys, well, that's where I'm going to get my Jeep from. I want one of those Jeeps that they have the thing in the back, and I can't wait. What do all those cars have in common besides being cars I long for? They're all come with the Warren Henry guarantee, the Warren Henry, thing that they have. Oh my gosh, I'm just so excited about it. What does that mean? The Warren Henry Advantage. That's it. The Warren Henry Advantage, well, that includes, you lose your keys. Those are like $100 a pop. They'll give them to you for free. My new car, when I tried to park it and I scraped up the rims, they'll come polish them for me. Oh, yeah, when I traded in my car, they made gosh darn sure I got the best deal on my trade-in. And you know that you get 3 days, 72 hours to turn in your car if you don't like it right after you buy. Guess what? That never happens because everybody loves their cars because they're great value and they're great machines. So join me, my mom, and my beautiful wife, Vivian. I love her so much. We're all members of the Warren Henry family. You should be too. Always the best price, always the best service, always my friends at Warren Henry. Yes, choose kindness. And when you choose to have kindness and execute your real estate deals with a beast anyway, that's me. Call me, DM me, do whatever it takes to get me on your team because I'm like lightning right now, hot as a pistol. I've got tremendous pref equity programs to put on top of your big institutional, industrial, or apartment development deals. I've got tremendous first mortgage construction financing in the low sixes for apartments in the state of Florida. Call me. My clients are on fire with me, and you should be too. So call me. Why? Because when you call me, it's always all about you.
Welcome back to Freed on Business. Connect with us on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter at Jim Freed or at Freed on Business, and on Instagram at Jim Freed1. Now, back to your host, Jim Freed.
All right, we're back. We're here with Family Office Day. We've got Ezzedeen Soleiman. How'd I do? Bring him on. All right. Well, we've got my old friend, Tom Handler. Sorry, Tom, I'm not going to play your intro song this time, but you're better than Michael Jordan.
Fair enough.
All right. So, there's been this trend that I've heard about and become aware about. And Tom, we've talked about it on the show, that there's a lot of reasons why people are getting multiple passports. We're going to talk to Ezzy about how that's done, but let's talk to you about why it's done. Why would that matter to somebody in today's world? The American economy is booming.
Well, I would say that the trend toward having a second passport or a second jurisdiction or an international home and assets has been an ongoing trend for some time. And the trend really escalated at about the same time that the U.S. put in the exit tax. So in the 12 years of Reagan and Bush, 13 people renounced their citizenship and left. 13 people in 12 years. Like 350 left in the first 90 days of Clinton. And then they very quickly put in the exit tax, which charges you a tax on your assets at the time that you leave the country. Since then, things slowed down a bit, and then ultimately Obama got elected, and over 30,000 people left in 8 years. So more people left under Obama that had left since the Pilgrims had landed. And the reasons tie to lack of appreciation of what's going on, just lack of agreement with the current administration, safety, lawlessness, safe haven, the ability to travel more safely, the ability to have a fallback jurisdiction or country. And then under COVID, it's pushed it even further because people will be getting stuck in different jurisdictions, and perhaps you don't want to spend 8 months in Florida. Maybe you'd rather spend 8 months, in St. Kitts and Nevis, or 8 months in Portugal or Monaco or any of the other many jurisdictions. So this is being driven by, one, the world's just globalizing, period, getting flatter and flatter. Secondly, increased dissatisfaction with the political agenda and lawlessness in the U.S. And under the overt criminality that's been advocated by Antifa and Black Lives Matter, people are running for the hills. They're moving to the suburbs in droves, huge, particularly millennials. Asians and whites are going very fast because they're often the victims of this abuse. And so you put this all together, and all of the trends militate toward more and more international involvement and more jurisdictions.
Listen, to be right on point, yesterday I had drinks with a friend of mine that's moving to Portugal. And this morning I had coffee with a friend of mine whose son just got hijacked a block away from where they live. Carjacked, rather. So it's hitting home dramatically. And, so easy. Why don't you tell us about what somebody like that starts doing and why they would call you?
Well, Jim, Tom mentioned some very interesting points. And I want to throw in another number. I mean, we've seen, I want to say, a 300% increase in Americans seeking a second passport just in the last year. And now, for the first time ever, Americans have, overpassed Chinese and any other nationality when it comes to the Portuguese golden visa, New Zealand, and Australia. So, when someone thinks of getting a second passport, people, thought Chinese, but it's really Americans now.
Tell me about this Portuguese golden passport, because I hadn't even thought of that, and that was the first country my friend recommended. Then I'm going to hear why Tom thinks that would be important too.
Yeah, so it's actually the golden visa. It's a residency permit, or it's a residency card, which then would lead you to citizenship. But the reason why it's so popular amongst Americans is, one, it's easy to get, either through real estate, right? You park your money in a condo or in a commercial development. And two, it's very passive. So it doesn't require, families and wealthy individuals to, pack their bags and actually move there. This is something that could be attained quite passively.
And then it gives me an entrance to the EU, right?
That's correct. So Portugal is part of the European Union. So it gives you the right to live in Portugal, work in Portugal. But then after the 5 years, if you apply for citizenship, then, you could spend 6 months in France. You can have a home in Italy. You can send your kids to school in Germany, so on and so forth. So It's like one key that opens the door to all of them.
And Tom, this is an increasing trend. Your clients are doing this. What are some of their high target countries that they're looking at?
Well, I certainly agree that Portugal is very near the top of the list. It's an easy program. If the closer into major urban areas you are, the more you have to spend on real estate. But if you move out, it becomes very affordable. So they have zones based on density. And the farther out you are, which, by the way, sounds great to me, get a place out in the country, you spend a lot less money for a much bigger venue. And people are kind of looking at two things. The idea of having a second visa is a good thing, a second passport. You've got the ability to travel. And if the world is not fond of Americans, just like they were not fond of Rome, or they're jealous, whatever the reasons are, having any other passport is handy to have. So I would say a lot of these people are trying to mix the dual passport along with the ability to pick up some mass protection. And so people tend to go toward nice places to live, and Portugal really to access Europe. But there's about 20 countries that have golden visa type situations, Portugal among the best. St. Kitts and Nevis is very nice. And in that jurisdiction, you also dovetail into superior asset protection laws, which places like Monaco and Portugal don't have. So depending on what's driving the family or what the biggest driver of their objectives is, will sort of determine where they go. But certainly New Zealand, Australia, New Zealand in particular, because it's got rated one of the freest countries on earth. They actually uphold their constitution. You know, they're not constantly imposing on our freedoms, taking control and authority they do not have, was not granted by the Constitution, and yet they just take it and act like.
Hold on, Tom. I have a client in New Zealand that still hasn't been able to leave. It's been 2 years. I just closed a deal with him in Charlotte.
Yeah, they for a time wouldn't let Americans in because too many of us were trying to get in for obvious reasons. But I've also been told it's beautiful and there's some great fly fishing. So I hope to get down there eventually to see it. But I would say those are among the best jurisdictions. Monaco, if you can afford it, and then some of the better ass protection Caribbean islands, places like St. Kitts and Nevis, the Cooks, Bermuda, and of course, not at the same level of ass protection, but solid banking centers, places like Gibraltar, Isle of Man, Malta, similar jurisdictions as well.
We're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back, and I'm going to talk to Tom about some of the changes that he's seen go on in the tax code and in the governmental circumstance and the impact that it has on families. And then we're going to see what he's hearing from his clients. So, Mr. Mendoza, it's yours. Yeah, I like that one better, Reagan, because I used to be a pool boy. So you're picking it up. Now you're picking it up. I love the chairs. Made lots of tips on those chairs. Where I worked, most of the folks were from Philadelphia. Of course, those motels in Sunny Isles, they've been long gone. They're long gone underneath some condos now. Hey, but if you're looking to do your condo deal, oh wait, this is Warren Henry. Oops. If you're looking to buy or lease a car, you want to get every advantage that you can. Thank you, Mr. Mendoza. That's why you have to check out Warren Henry. Please forgive me for messing up a little, Larry. Call my friends at Warren Henry. I want to thank Samantha Jacobson and the rest of Samantha Wolf. She got married. And the rest of the folks over at Warren Henry, I want to thank them for my great new QX60. You got to get one of these. They're tremendous. Got the Apple CarPlay and everything. My wife loves it. I'm still trying to figure out how to remotely open the trunk with my toe, but I'll get that eventually. And, that's my Infinity. But, up in Gainesville, they sell Audis and the Keys. They sell everything. And the reason to go to them, well, they're all great cars. They come with the Warren Henry Advantage, a long list of services that I don't need to read right now because I know them all. You get the complimentary loaner. You get the key replacement. If you scratch up your rims, they'll help you out with that. And they'll guarantee you get a great price on both your trade-in and your new car. So why should you go there? Well, shoot, my mom, my wife, me, we're all members of the Warren Henry family, even my friends. So why? because, oh, that's the wrong one again. Always the best price, always the best service, always Warren Henry. Thank you so much. I messed that one up so bad.
This is Becca Carlson from Carlson Integrated. You know, a lot of our clients find that they can do anything, but not really everything. And we are always excited to jump in and help. So whether you need another set of hands for a project or even comprehensive marketing management, our team of marketing mavens would love to have a conversation with you to see if we are the right fit. We do everything from logo and design work to email outreach and social media to writing and thought leadership. And here's a fun one. We are now offering our fabulous ebook of top 10 marketing tips on our website for free. So head over to carlsonintegrated.com and grab a copy today. And please always let us know how we can help. My email is Becca, that's BEKAH at carlsonintegrated.com. That's BEKAH at carlsonintegrated.com.
If you really want the personal touch when you're doing your real estate deal, call me. I can get you capitalized way up in the capital stack. I have great partners that I'm working with that are helping me capitalize real estate deals directly. Equity, debt, pref equity, I've got it all. And great partners. So give me a call. Direct message me. Why? Because whenever you do, it's always all about you.
Welcome back to Freed on Business. Connect with us on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter at Jim Freed or at Freed on Business, and on Instagram at Jim Freed1. Now, back to your host, Jim Freed.
All right, we're here with my good friend Tom Handler and my new friend, oh man, I knew I was going to stumble. Ezzedeen Soleiman. Welcome back, folks. Welcome back, guys. I really appreciate you being here. Tom, a little red meat for you. What's been going on since we talked last that would make people consider this more and more? And then we're going to ask EZ how they would go about getting in touch with him and what the process might be. Tom, you're up first.
Sure. So the proposals that have come out came out during the presidential campaign, followed by the proposals that came out of the Biden administration, the Democratic Party. The only question is which of those groups are scarier, and it's hard to say. But from a standpoint of a tax estate lawyer, this is the best news I've heard in a long time. Every time they say the word billionaire tax, our phone rings off the hook. And these proposals are so incredibly confiscatory, they're mind-numbing. And most people don't understand them. But with the changes they're putting in place, you will have many estates of high net worth, top 5% people paying in the 90%. 90%. And that's just Fed, states on top of that. And my states, for the most part, 20, 24%, until you get up to like 70, 80 million, it drops to 16%. There's about a dozen states at that 16%, but it's higher on the lower amounts. So they're so confiscatory, and some of the income tax provisions are similar. So it's driving people nuts. And right now you've got the top 1% paying more tax than the bottom 90%. So get your arms around that for a minute. Top 1% paying more than the bottom 90. In 2020, the bottom 50% paid almost nothing. So you have half the population not contributing whatsoever.
Receiving.
Yes, exactly.
Wow.
And in 2021, early estimates are that 60% of the U.S. population will not pay any income tax for 2021. So it's getting worse rather than better. And the top 1% has actually paid more tax on average every year since World War II. And in fact, the tax is incredibly progressive, and we're paying at some of the highest rates in the world. So this myth, the top 1% isn't doing its fair share, is just comical. And the fact the media can't seem to count to 5 without their fingers troubles me greatly. The facts are crystal clear. The data is available. It's not hard to find. The top 1% is getting slaughtered. And now they're proposing to increase everything. And of course, the top 1% inordinately pays it. Top 10% pays virtually everything, 90% of all taxes. And so that's driving people to look for tax relief, fallback jurisdictions, better travel visas, ask protection internationally, or just escaping and literally renouncing their citizenship, which was an epidemic under Obama. And that combined with taxpayer flight is at fever frenzy. People are leaving the blue, bankrupt, and they call them progressive, which is a clever pseudonym for communist. They're full-blown communist. It's not socialist. It's not, it's not John Kennedy style Democrat. He was actually more conservative than Trump. But now the Democratic Party shifted so far to the left, it's just alienated hordes of the population. And these people are leaving Chicago, New York, Silicon Valley in droves. And the wealthier they are, the more highly educated they are, the more likely they're business owners, the higher their net worth, the faster they leave. And they're leaving places like New York, Chicago, Minneapolis for places like Nashville, Tennessee, Austin, Texas, the whole damn state of Florida. We just opened up a Naples office. We've had a Palm Beach office for years, but we've had so many families, like 50, 60 moved to Naples from all over the country, and we have other people along that coast. So the beneficiaries tend to be the more conservative states that tend to be warmer and have budget surpluses, or at least are not hopelessly bankrupt like places like California and Illinois. So I've never seen movement at this level or this kind of frenzy, nor have we been this busy in about 20 years. The phone literally is ringing off the hooks because people are angry, confused, disillusioned, or livid, all of the above, and it's driving them into action.
Well, it's certainly making my life much more profitable. While it is tougher to buy my condo down here, it really is driving my multifamily business right off the charts. Not only are the high-end people coming, but now they're bringing their businesses too. I over across the street from office building, and I just saw the last vacant floor go under tenant improvements. Now, easy. Let's say I'm the head of this family, which I am. And let's say Tom just convinced me that I got what rolling at me, even though I live in Florida. That only means that I don't have the state tax on top of me. I'm still getting slaughtered. What do I do? What's the process, and how does it work?
So the process is, we would do an analysis on your overall financial, status or health. We would discuss, what your goals are. We would discuss legacy planning, and then see overall where you want to go. So the next best thing would be Europe, right? And as we discussed before, Portugal is extremely, popular. Malta is another one. So we would look at one, what's your appetite? How much could you invest? How much could you afford? And how much time really do you want to spend abroad? And then we would do a background check, which we do with every client, go through the process, find the actual investment, open a bank account for you, walk you through the steps. And then there's a visit required, which we will be there with you as well. So, a lot of individuals say, all right, I want to get a second passport, but I know I have no contacts in Portugal, no contacts in St. Kitts or Malta or what have you. And that's what we offer. I mean, we have 15 offices around the world. Our first office in the U.S. is in California and Los Angeles. And I know Tom mentioned people are flocking out of it. It is true. That's why we open our office here. And it's really a turnkey solution that we offer, right, through our network, and it really is, mostly in passive programs.
I'm very excited about that. My choice would either be the Caribbean, but I'd be scared of the summertime weather. I think Portugal is really very similar weather-wise to Florida, and they have a good soccer team. And and then I have friends, believe it or not, in Malta. So I think that those are three tremendous locations. Tom, where would you move as an individual? Where would you be looking at if you were going to move? Where would you recommend to your client base? I know it'd be specific to different people, but you, Tom, hockey player, handler, where would you go?
It's funny. I thought about that. In terms of weather, I'm more likely to go to Canada than I am to go to Florida, but it would be like a mixture of both. I enjoy the Caribbean. I like to scuba. I fly fish, a lot of bone fishing. I like the water. So all those sports appeal to me, but there's no Bulls, there's no Bears, there's not two baseball teams, two opera companies, 3 ballet companies, 2 soccer teams, 2 hockey teams, 8 world caliber museums. The list goes on and on. So I don't plan to leave Chicago, but I'm trying to do my part to deport about half of our elected officials. And I would say like a place like Portugal, for 3 months, and a place in the Caribbean would be the perfect mixture of the two. So like New Zealand, Monaco, Portugal, Nevis in particular, I'm very fond of, and the laws are pretty favorable. So those all look of interest to me. I will probably never leave, though I do have international assets, international investments, an international trust, international family holding company. That's probably as far as I'm going to go. And I would just add that it's important to have someone that knows what they're doing in terms of getting these visas and or renouncing whatever the family decides to do, or moving assets and investments or trusts offshore. It's a much more complicated arena, and there's a lot of players out there that aren't very good at it. So there's a lot of non-compliance, and there's all kinds of tax schemes that frankly don't work, right? So this idea of not renouncing your citizenship and trying to avoid all these taxes may not get you where you want to be. And so I just would caution you, even some of the high volume purveyors have created a lot of tax distress among our client base. So it's important to get the information and be credible. And I would add in conclusion that we also, the US benefits from this greatly. Some huge percentage of the world's capital is based here. The EB5 is sort of our closest version, where you're like, here for 6 months, you can easily renew for another 6, and then 90 days after that. So we have a lot of people who trust their own country even less than they trust, they trust our country more than they trust their own. And people believe we are the least likely jurisdiction to improperly expatriate your assets, steal your assets, right? Yeah. So we have that going for us. And although we don't like the securities regulation here, it's very onerous, and we don't like our litigation is very onerous, that protection is actually welcome by these families. They want to come here, stay out of our divorce courts and liability courts, avoid our taxes as much as possible, but get the benefit of those protections. And that can actually be done with some planning in advance. There's a lot of great alternatives for people in that spot. And the U.S. is one of the major beneficiaries of people looking for a safe haven where they're not going to get robbed or stolen. Or, there are countries where people die in bathtubs, drowning on a regular and ongoing basis, or there are still, indoctrination camps where people are getting murdered, raped, sterilized. I mean, it's really rather outrageous. And most Americans have no idea that this stuff is going on. So it's unfortunate. But I think this trend is going to continue for the foreseeable future, and perhaps beyond that.
We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to talk to Easy and Tom about how it looks when you integrate this entire process with both asset protection and getting the right venue selected. We'll talk about how these types of firms work together right around the bend. Mr. Mendoza, it's all yours. Oh, I like that shot with the airport. That's kind of like my view sometimes. Well played, Mr. Mendoza. You know how to keep me interested in this stuff. I want to thank our friends at Warren Henry. Thank you so much to Larry, Eric, Samantha, and the rest of the team. Remember, if you're looking to buy or lease a car, you want to get every advantage that you can. I sure do, every single time. And I just got a new QX60 from them, one of the first ones in town, probably one of the first ones in the country. My wife loves it. I love it. I love it. Hey, you're going to love your car too. You can go up to 151st and Biscayne, where they've got Land Rover, Range Rover, Infiniti, and Jaguar. Up in Gainesville, they sell Audis. Down in the Keys, they sell all the different name brands. Probably going to go down there and get my my Jeep fancy car that I'm going to take Handler out to go fishing and hunting with. What do all those cars have in common? Well, they all come with their Warren Henry Advantage. Excuse me. The Warren Henry Advantage. And they also come with the great suite of services. That is the Warren Henry Advantage. I'm sorry. They're all great cars, and they come with the Warren Henry Advantage. The Warren Henry Advantage is all these great things. You get a loaner car if your service is going to take long. They replace the keys if you lose them. They're really expensive keys. They'll help you polish up your rims if you scrape them up. They'll guarantee you're getting a great price for your trade-in, a great price on the car. And if you don't like your car, you can trade it in after 3 days. Nobody trades them in because they love their cars. I know I love mine. So join me, my mom, my beautiful wife, Vivian, lots and lots of my friends, more every day. We're all members of the Warren Henry family. You should be too. Always the best price. Always the best service. I love Maytel Stark, my service advisor. Always Warren Henry. Wow, I just love the folks on my show today. Tom Handler, what a tremendous friend. Easy, can't wait to become even more friendly with you. We're going to have a great talk with them around the half hour. And just so you both know, one of the Florida Congress people just, I hope that wasn't him. One of the Florida Congress people just texted me that they're listening and they're really interested in working on this issue. So I have somebody for us to call afterwards, Tom. But you should call me if you want to do a real estate deal, because I have tremendous capital, U.S. based, offshore, debt, equity. I have tremendous lenders from the U.S. and Canada. They're calling me every day, begging me to do my apartment and condo deals. So call me. What do? I put usually families together with these institutional investors. The institutions want to meet the families want to meet the institutions. But Handler will tell you, the families usually talk to families. They don't know the institutions. How do they meet the institutions? People like me. So if you have a family and you want to execute the plan, call me or DM me. One thing I can tell you for sure, when you reach out to me, it's always all about you.
Welcome back to Freedom Business. Connect with us on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter at Jim Freed or at Freedom Business, and on Instagram at Jim Freed1. Now, back to your host, Jim Freed.
All right, we're on with Tom Handler and Ezzedeen Soleiman. I did it without a pause that time. I think I'm getting better. Easy, how am I doing?
I'm actually very impressed.
Thank you so much. I specialize in bastardizing names, so I'm really trying hard. Handler knows because I've done it to his. Can you imagine messing that one up? Hey, Tom, I'm not kidding. I've been texting with one of my Congress people. I want to get them on the phone. Maybe you can send me something that I could forward to the Congressperson, because I don't want to out who it is, but we could talk offline, because it's somebody that I think should talk to you, because maybe they knew about this, but maybe they didn't know your 30,000 person number. So easy. We're here with Tom. How does a firm like yours work with a firm like Tom's? Because I know Tom is always looking for a credible solution for his clients, but he's extraordinarily tough on the due diligence.
Right. So, I mean, Latitude's strength is really in their network, right? So we're approached by family offices, big banks on Wall Street, firms like Tom's saying, you know what, we have these clients and they have needs, right? And we obviously don't want to hand them off to a Portuguese lawyer or a Maltese, firm. We need someone who has a presence in the U.S., who has experience working with governments, because we have a government advisory practice, and we'll take care of our clients and make sure that, one, they're not taking advantage of in a foreign country, and two, this is a sound investment for Americans, and this is something that our clients are going to take advantage of. So usually these firms send us their clients. We have initial calls with their advisors, and then we take it from there. It's really a turnkey solution, like I said. And Tom mentioned approximately 30 programs around the world. There's an additional maybe 50 visas and business visas and investor visas from numerous other countries. So it's a complex industry, but we do have the experience and the manpower to take care of that.
I'd be very terrified going to a new country that I didn't know, taking my historically acquired family wealth and moving to a venue, and I'm going to throw it out there, I'm Jewish. So I would have an extensive layer of significant concerns above and beyond. Mm-hmm. I mean, is this something that's openly discussed in this practice, Easy?
Well, definitely. I mean, it's interesting that you mentioned that you're Jewish. During the pandemic, really, we had numerous families go ahead and reach out. Yeah, there it is. Numerous families reach out to us, looking for either a second passport or to get citizenship by descent, really, through the Sephardic programs or so on and so forth. So,
I mean, we're terrified. Look, We're terrified with some of the stuff that's going on in Florida, for sure. We're terrified. Mm-hmm. I know. Yeah. I get the phone calls.
Right. So, they're looking at a plan B. They're looking at an insurance policy, a what if. And a lot of these programs, a lot of clients tell us that we're terrified and we don't know what the world will look like in 5, 10, 20 years. And most of these programs, specifically in Europe, they're passed down to generations. So your kids, your children, their children, and so on and so forth will always keep the second passport. So it's pretty powerful on that standpoint.
Look, my wife's family, Poland, France, Havana, Miami, one generation, and there was a tax each time they moved, believe me. And the penalty by the time they got here was everything. they came penniless. But we're not here talking about the Cuba diaspora today. Okay, Tom, you guys can work with somebody like EZ to protect that and advise me on the right place to go and how to make sure that my mosaic of investments and ownership things is protected, correct?
Yeah, so, we don't do immigration or, the obtainment of those foreign passports or visas. However, we work on the structural side. And in many cases, you might have a residence in Bermuda and an asset protection trust in a different jurisdiction. So we try to use the global landscape, rule out the countries that are on the, the FBI, CIA, Treasury, and Euro blacklists, and limit it to legitimate, what are deemed to be legitimate, non-controversial countries. And so, there are places where if you had a captive life insurance company, you would go to Bermuda. If you have a captive property and casualty company, there's a number of jurisdictions. BVI is one of the most popular. If you're looking at asset protection, it's Cooks and Nevis are at the top of the list. So if you're looking at pensions, it's Switzerland, Malta. There are, you can almost rank the countries from 1 to 30 based on those factors. So depending on the family's objectives, we would try to take advantage of whatever they're trying to achieve and help them get there. And the critical part here is really the compliance, because even accountants and lawyers and other advisors who try to do international transactions compliant, they're difficult to do. There's a lot of forms, there's a lot of filings, there's very serious penalties for lack of compliance. And we've handled many of these where, there was a $250,000 got parked, in an account during World War II before the family escaped. And now it's $4 or $5 million and it's non-compliant. If they've not filed the annual reports, they've not filed proper tax returns. And so the various amnesty programs, we took a lot of those forward. And these people in the 80s and 90s and cleaned up, 50 years of mess and paid relatively low penalties using the various programs available. So doing this in a compliant manner with both the general regulatory scheme of the various countries, and it's often a highest common denominator, type approach. You got to comply with everything. And then secondly, make sure you're also complying with the U.S. rules with respect to these entities and tax filings and other filings. And there's Know Your Customer rules, there's FATCA, there's Dodd-Frank, there's the Patriot Act. They all have an impact on this. And it's not simple stuff, but it certainly can be done right. And some of these administrations have pretty much, they can't tell the difference between a nice vacation island, a baking center, and an asset protection jurisdiction. They lump them all together because they're not sophisticated enough to understand it. And that's unfortunate because the world's going to continue globalizing, notwithstanding what any particular administration tries to shovel.
Now, Tom, these families all have fancy advisors. They all think they know everything that's going on. And they're going to go and they're going to do this, and their local law firm that they do all their real estate transactions with is going to tell them they can handle it. What's the different levels of efficiency based on the level of law firm that you're dealing with on this particular issue?
Well, expertise in the international arena, there are always exceptions, but even most medium-sized law firms don't touch it. Some of the ALM 100 biggest law firms do no private client tax or estate whatsoever. So they'll handle Fortune 1000 company global affairs, but don't touch the tax or estate side for even their own individual clients. And so it's more rare air than you would expect. And among the top 10 accounting firms, you'll have some offices that are adept and understand international quite well. In other firms, there's nobody, right? So it just depends on who you hit. There might be 3 guys in the Atlanta office that have it down pat, and you talk to 4 other offices, they have no idea what to do, and they don't know who to call. So it's difficult. You just have to, I think you want to find someone who's had experience in the area, and it's kind of a combination. It's tax, accounting, and legal compliance all blended together. So it's sort of a multidisciplinary approach, and I think that's why it's difficult, but there are certainly firms that focus on this and can do it adeptly.
Right.
Yeah, the congressperson asked me, hold on. The congressperson asked me to flip them the thing when we're done. So we've got a big audience here, Tom. We're talking now.
Well, some of our clients are senators and congressmen and ambassadors, and I'm sending them emails every time I see a tax act I don't like. I said, look, this is the right thing to do, but it could be better by doing this, or this is a giant mistake. This is a huge revenue enhancement. Long term, the IRS makes a lot more money from this provision. Why on earth would you give up a revenue positive tax provision that no one's complaining about? And they think they're sticking it the top 1%. All they're doing is sticking it to everybody else because these provisions long term are tax positive. A perfect example are 1202 stocks. They're trying to water it down to where it started. And when they did that, the arbitrage between going through all this compliance hell to qualify and not do anything was like a 1% tax saving. So no one did it. Literally, no one did it for 15 years. They finally fixed it, enhanced it to where it makes a little bit of a difference. Now people started doing it. Now they're going to push it back, or trying to push it back to where it started. But it forces everyone onto a C corporation format, which means you pay double tax. You have a separate corporate tax plus the individual tax. So it's a huge revenue enhancement, and they're trying to take it away. And I'm like, guys, don't do this. For every dollar you give up, you're making $5 to $7 of federal revenue, and that's without the state and local consequence. But the GAO and the Comptroller General's office, they don't talk to each other. And when they do scoring on these tax bills, the scoring companies have no particular credibility, and no one looks in 4 or 5 years to say, did what they predict actually work out? They have no idea. So it's like doing a budget with a Ouija board.
I can guarantee you that this person is not one of your clients and that you're going to like talking to them. It may be tough for me to get you in touch with them, but I'm sure that they want to hear what you have to say. I know they do. It's my personal friend. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back with Easy. Easy's going to lead us off in our next break, and we're going to talk about some of the nuances that he's seen and maybe a couple of special examples that he can give without being too specific. Mendoza, rock the house. Hey, everybody, I've got to admit it and apologize to Warren Henry because I messed up their ads a couple of times, but that's because while I'm doing the ad, I'm thinking about what I want to talk to these two guys about next, because this is tremendous stuff, and it's not easy to get access to them, and I'm so happy that we did. Remember, when you're looking to buy or lease a car, you want to get every advantage that you can. That's exactly what you want when you want to protect your assets, too. You want to get every advantage that you can. That's why you have to check out Warren Henry, Land Rover, Range Rover, Infiniti, and Jaguar up at 151st and Biscayne. And by the way, Tom will appreciate this. This is the third generation, Tom, and they're rolling strong. That's Larry. I love you, Larry. Can't wait till it's the fourth generation. Buy cars from them, too. Hey, they have great cars up at 151st and Biscayne. They have Land Rover, Range Rover, Infiniti, and Jaguar. Up in Gainesville, Audi. Down in the Keys, everything. What do all those cars have in common? Well, they're all great cars. They all come with the Warren Henry Advantage. What's the Warren Henry Advantage? You know by now. You get all these great services. You get the loaner car when you're in for service. You get them to replace your keys if you lose them. They'll polish up your rims if you scratch them. And of course, they'll guarantee you're getting a good price for your trade-in. That you're getting the good price on the car, and they will let you trade it in for 72 hours. Nobody ever does that because they're great cars. So join me, my mom, I love my wife, Vivian. We're all members of the Warren Henry family. They just sold us a brand new QX60. It's tremendous. Always the best price. Always the best service. Always Warren Henry.
Carlson from Carlson Integrated. You know, a lot of our clients find that they can do anything, but not really everything. And we are always excited to jump in and help. So whether you need another set of hands for a project or even comprehensive marketing management, our team of marketing mavens would love to have a conversation with you to see if we are the right fit. We do everything from logo and design work to email outreach and social media to writing and thought leadership. And here's a fun one. We are now offering our fabulous ebook of top 10 marketing tips on our website for free. So head over to carlsonintegrated.com and grab a copy today. And please always let us know how we can help. My email is Becca, that's BEKAH at carlsonintegrated.com. That's BEKAH at carlsonintegrated.com.
Hi, I'm Jim Freed. If you're one of the families watching today and you want to be in real estate in Florida, call me. I know all the great real estate operators in Florida, multi and industrial, top of the line for sure. Retail, best in class. I'm doing a lot of senior housing too. Reach out to me. In fact, the senior housing stuff I'm doing with a big family out of Tampa right now. I'm dealing directly with their director of special assets and investments. Call me, direct message me if you'd like to be creative and work with other families. All over town, all over the city of Miami, all over the southeastern state of Florida, all over the state of Florida. I've got contacts that can help you execute everything. Remember, my brand is that I self-actualize by helping other people achieve their dreams and goals. So call me, direct message me. Why? Because when you call me, it's always all about you.
Welcome back to Freed on Business. Connect with us on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter at Jim Freed or at Freed on Business, and on Instagram at Jim Freed1. Now, back to your host, Jim Freed.
All right, this is the fourth quarter, so we're going to talk about what makes our service providers different than the other folks in their field. Easy, you're up first. So, handlers out there, he's looking for this kind of a service. What would differentiate you from the rest of the people that are out there providing the service besides the fact that we like you?
Well, thank you very much for that. First is we're actually a government-approved agent. So a lot of these programs require, governments to actually handpick the people who will, one, promote this program, and two, work with them on actually building and implementing the program. So we're not agents, we're not middlemen. We're actually approved by some of these governments. Two, we are, as I mentioned before, we have a government advisory board. So a lot of these programs, we've reached out to governments, and governments have mandated us to design and implement these programs. And Tom mentioned something very interesting before, is that money goes where it's best treated, right? And these governments, they're telling us, how do we attract talented individuals? How do we attract wealthy Americans? And there is a fight. There is a tremendous fight on the world stage for this. So those two aspects actually differentiate us. And we're the only global firm that now has a presence in the United States of America. So our first office, as I mentioned, in LA, and we're expanding. So depending on how the rest of the year plans out, we'll be somewhere in the Midwest or East Coast as well.
Well, that's tremendous. And Tom, what do you look for when you're recommending service providers to your clients? There's got to be a checklist. You do a lot of due diligence. You probably have somebody in the firm that specifically looks under the hood on every firm. What are the things you look for?
Well, typically we're looking for qualifications, experience, proven track record. Lack of government prosecutions is always helpful. There are firms that purport to do what Easy's been talking about, who have been underneath 4 or 5 major tax conflicts, none of which worked out. And, I'm not on the IRS's side of the table, so they're not always right. But if you make 5 guesses and you're wrong all 5 times, you're not doing a good job. So we've ruled out a lot of providers because of that. Like you're doing what everybody else looks. And frankly, the families do the same thing. So regardless of what we do, they're going to have their internal people do due diligence and probably interview several. And then that's the nature of a family office or a large business owner. They're going to be cautious. They've got advisors they can use to do that digging, and it's the right thing to do, because sometimes it's really important to try to hit singles and doubles and not swing for the fences. And that due diligence can help you avoid some of those problems, and you won't strike out. So I think it's the right approach. How far you go is up to each family, but some measure of due diligence is certainly appropriate. And for me, I like to talk to people I know and have worked with. So I've known some for a long time, and they say, look, these are good people, or they did a nice job for the clients. That's very valuable, because we do the same things. Look, the 3 clients have worked with this guy, and they were all happy with what happened. So we'll make that introduction more willingly than not. If we don't know somebody well, we're very reluctant, because it's not going to reflect well on us, even though we accept no fee whatsoever except from our clients. So if we tell them they need more life insurance because they need more life insurance, not because I'm selling life insurance, like I can't pay your estate tax. This is just a math exercise. Unless you can tell me how you're going to come up with that money, you don't want to sell your business at a firestorm. You want to pass it on to the kids. How are you going to get liquid? You can't finance it out in the short term. I got 9 months to pay this tax. So you want to have the right providers, and you want to look out for your clients the same way you look out for your own family, because that's what these family offices are about, is looking out at a high level, because as you know, wealth dissipates very, very quickly. Chances of it making to the third generation, like your friend Warren Henry, are about 10%. It's very low. So the whole wealth industry, banking industry, trust companies, lawyers, accountants, financial planners, we're not doing a very good job, because it just doesn't survive. And so for it to survive, you've got to do things at a higher level. You've got to be more cautious. You've got to be thrifty. You've got to be smart. Education is critical. It just takes a different skill set to maintain it than it does to make it originally. And so that's why it's so difficult. And some of these professional athletes, we were in a lot of these guys who've made tremendous amounts, played on Super Bowl teams, NBA champions, and within a few years of retiring, they're out of money, right? And well, why did that happen? Well, the wife left them because they didn't do a prenup, so she took half the stuff. They bought a house that was too big that they could afford. Now they sell it for a fraction of a dollar. The furniture goes for 10 cents on the dollar. They only can use part of it in the new home, which is much smaller. It's just a spiral, and it's incredibly common. So to do things right, to do a prenup, to have an estate plan, to have an umbrella insurance policy, to be cautious, that's how you end up with guys who beat the norm. So 6 of our clients were starting quarterbacks last year, and 3 of these guys, while still playing, have $100 million in assets under management. Wow. Not the norm, but they did everything right. They were cautious. They've got prenup. They've got estate plans. They have annual meetings with their advisors. They try to treat themselves like little businesses, and they stayed out of trouble. And so they end up in a far different spot than most of these guys. And so doing things at a higher level is how you get there, in my view.
Okay, this is my self-indulgent 3 minutes of the show. Tom, crystal ball, midterms are coming. How does the taxpayer look? How does it look for the taxpayer? What's going on, and how strong will things hold up? Will things be stable? Will they continue to erode for the high-end taxpayer?
Well, long term, I'm pretty confident it'll continue to erode. We just pumped trillions of dollars of stimulus, of money we didn't have, overspent ridiculously. We're still giving out free COVID tests when many sophisticated countries have dropped everything. No more tests, no more face masks, no more anything, no more vaccinations, and they've had better results than we had. Several countries who did nothing, had no shutdowns, no masks, and no money for vaccinations, had fewer people die of COVID than we had in the United States as a percentage. So this is going to have to be paid for. And so the long term is only one place it can come, because the bottom 90% don't pay enough tax to bail us out. So this is going to fall in the top 10%. Even the middle class is going to get hit pretty hard, in my view. My sense is the economy would be in the complete toilet, but for these wild overstimulus money that's been gushing all over the place. When that money is spent and runs out, the economy is going to take a damn nosedive. But I believe the midterm elections will be best characterized as vengeance. I think it's going to be a bloody trail for certainly the left-wing Democrats, right, which are the progressives, which are as close to communists as you can get. And in fact, a number of the provisions of the Democrat, and by the way, I vote for all 3 parties, and I give money to all 3 parties, and the only campaigns I've ever worked on were Democrats. But I'm telling you, they've now shifted so far to the screaming left, they've lost me. I'm done. And they bankrupted my state, for which I will never forgive them. And that's inexcusable. This is the 4th wealthiest state in the country. And Chicago is the most highly educated city. There's no excuse for us to be so bankrupt. But I think the midterm elections, the pendulum's going to swing back, and it's going to keep on swinging. I just read a poll that said now roughly 41% of the population identifies as left-wing, and 47% identifies as right-wing. So it's a significant increase, and more of the moderates are shifting to the right because they don't like the extreme lefty stuff. Again, characterized by BLM, Antifa, and similar groups. That's not playing well, because downtown, I've seen carjackings. I've never seen so few people downtown. There are boarded up restaurants. I've seen 3 police in downtown Chicago in the last 3 months. I would see 20 a day in a normal environment. So it's a very odd time out there, and people are not happy. So despite the massive growth of entitlement, which is all over the younger generations and very difficult for me to understand, this election is going to swing back the other way is my best guess.
Well, Tom, thank you so much for being here today and giving your insight. I greatly appreciate it. I think that almost the entirety of America actually lives in the center, and the left and the right have corrupted us, co-opted us. It's horrible. I think the right message for the midterms is meet me in the middle. Let's defeat the left and the right and then go back to being loyal opposition. I would think that's a winning message.
Yeah.
Okay. Easy. I want to thank you so much for being here today. We've only got a couple of minutes left. Your last thought.
Well, I mean, Tom mentioned very interesting points, and I was in San Francisco the other day, and it's empty, right? And people are choosing to work from home, but they're choosing where to work, and they're choosing, what country treats them the best. So we saw a 300% increase. That is just going to get bigger and bigger as the years or months pass, and we'll see what happens after the midterms.
All right. Well, guys, thank you so much. I'll make sure to send you both links to today's program. I'll make sure I link you guys up so you can do some due diligence and hopefully help each other's clients out. As always, I want to thank our guests. Thank you, Ezzedeen Soleiman, for allowing me on and trying to practice your name. I really do appreciate the ability to get it right. I think you're the only double Z person I know. And Tom, I love you, man. I'm going to make sure we have your intro song teed up for next time.
It was a pleasure. Thank you both.
All right. This is Jim Freed for Freed on Business. I want to thank everybody. I want to thank our sponsors, UF Bergstrom's Centers for Real Estate Studies, Warren Henry. I want to thank you, our viewers and listeners. I want to remind everybody next week we'll be on with another Chicago company. We're going to have Inland. We're going to talk about CPACE. I'm everybody Chicago. I don't know. Maybe my family's from Chicago. Did you ever think? Hey, and remember, the person who wants to do something finds a way. The other finds an excuse. Go out there and make it happen. And this one's for you, Tom. God bless you and God bless America.